Hello, everybody. So I'm at home sick, so you're in the care of Madame Touche today, and she is wonderful, so you guys are very lucky. And I just wanted to show you a few things about what it takes to do research for this particular project. As you know, for in our slideshow that we did on Tuesday, I left off with this last slide where I said that you guys were going to choose one of the four areas of the classical Greeks legacy, and that you would get to choose to study it more in depth. What you're going to need to do is come up with some sort of a question that you're seeking to answer that relates to one of these four areas. So you might choose art and architecture, or you might choose government, or you might go after some part of culture or some aspect of culture, or you might do something that has to do with science and technology. The Greeks were well known for all four, and there's still a lot of evidence that they left behind that they had a clear impact on Western civilization. So basically, what we are doing is we are aiming to create a web page, and I'm going to show you guys how to create a web page when I return to school on Friday. But first off, you have to select your focus question. You're going to be locating quality sources, a minimum of 3, but you can try to find 4, and I may give you a few extra points if you go after a 4th source. One of them has to come from a database, so I'm going to show you the tour of how to get to that in just a second. By the way, if you're not taking notes at this point, you probably will want to jot down the steps that I go through here so that you don't have to rewatch this video later. And then you will also be taking notes electronically using a gathering grid, which I'll provide to you in Classroom. And you'll do some planning for the writing portions of the website. Then you'll construct your web page and you'll use Google Sites. And there's some requirements shown here for you. And our due date is going to be next Thursday. So it's a pretty quick turnaround, but this really isn't too difficult an assignment, and I think you guys will do great. So let me show you. First off, we're going to jump into Classroom here. And in Classroom, there's a few things that I've left for you. The first thing, someone's actually already answered it. So we have, what area of Greece's legacy are you choosing to research? And what is your question that you are seeking to answer? What is your inspiration, or what are your reasons for wanting to research this question? Please make sure to answer all 3 parts. And once you've done that, you'll go ahead and you'll go down here and you'll go, okay, so Greece's legacy research project, your gathering grid. This is something that you guys will need to open, and you'll get a copy of it that's just for you to work in. And then it will take you here. And basically, what I'm asking you to do is you're going to fill in certain information as you're doing your research. And this is going to count as quite a bit for your project. So you want to make sure to do a really good job on this, because also if you don't have good research, then your web page won't be very good. It'll just be kind of weak or maybe a little light. And you want to make sure that it feels substantial. So first off, you're going to enter the area and the question you're seeking to answer. Then you're going to indicate what the source type is and what the title of the page or article is. Then insert your URL. And I'll show you how to do that in just a moment. But that'll make your life really easy if you do that, so you want to make sure to do that. And it's also so that I can double check and see where your sources are coming from. And then we've done the CRAP rubric before, and I'll make sure to load a copy into Classroom again for you. But you just want to do CRAP considerations. Why is this a good source? What are the pros and cons of using it? And then you want to take some notes or information on your source. So basically, I've put a little example in here in this first row for you. So you can see that I'm using a database, and I went to Gale Group, and I found a source called Greek Architecture. And then here is the URL. And the URL says Drive right now because I actually downloaded it to my drive so I can access it whenever I want to. And then I did some CRAP considerations. Notice I didn't rate it this time, but I'm going through and I'm just talking about what's really good about it and maybe what's a con or two about this source. And then this is where I would take my notes, is over here on the far right. You want to make sure to take a good list of notes here. And as it says, you want to make sure that you're giving credit to where things are coming from on your web page. Otherwise, it may result in a total loss of credit. Plagiarism is a really big deal, so don't do it. So from here, I'm going to show you guys how to find a good database. So here we are at our Columbine High School webpage, and I'm going to go to Students, and then I'll go to Library. You want to make sure to write this down in case you have not done this before. So once I click on Library, I'm going to go over here to Electronic Books and Databases, and I'll click on that. And then over here, I'm going to click on the Gale Student Resources. Now, something to notice is up here it says when you are not in school, you'll need a password to access these. Okay, so I figured out what the password is, and it's pretty basic. It's Rebels. REBELS, all lowercase, and you just go ahead and type it in from home if you're doing this from home. But anyway, I'm going to click on where it said Student Databases, and here I am in Gale Student Resources in Context. And I'm going to go ahead and do a search up here in this bar, and I'm just going to start out with something basic, and then I can narrow it down from there if I want to. So I'm going to put in Greek architecture. And it gives me a whole bunch of different options here, which I could go with one of theirs if I wanted to. Geez, that's a long list. But I'm not going to. I'm going to go ahead and stick with Greek architecture for now. And then it's giving me a whole bunch of different resources. You can see over here, this is all the different stuff that it's giving me, which is quite a bit. I want to make sure that I'm in the right era though, so I'm going to type in classical. And then from here, I'm going to go through and I'm going to say, okay, what exactly is it that I want? What appeals to me and what do I think I'm going to use? And this is just the first few. If I want to see all of the results, I would click on magazines and I would go ahead and go through there. But for our cases, I'm going to go ahead and click on this one, because I've already done a little browsing beforehand before showing you guys this. So here I am in Greek architecture, Greek building techniques. Okay? Oh, and by the way, my question that I'm going after is this. I have art and architecture that I've gone ahead and I've typed in for my chosen area, and then the question that I'm seeking to answer is how were the Greek temples constructed and what were some of the enduring features that are found on modern day buildings? Because since it's a legacy project, I want to say, well, okay, how does it relate to today? So anyway, so I've got Greek building techniques, so how are they built? So this is going to help me to answer my question. And then going through here, I'm going, geez, this is a lot of information. The early Doric style, which I talked about in our presentation just briefly the other day. Early Ionic architecture. And then it's talking about 5th century temples. So I know I'm in the right place if it's talking about 5th century, because that is when the classical Greek era was. And then the Acropolis. Sorry. We have the Parthenon, that's part of the Acropolis, the Propylaea, and so on and so forth. My goodness, this is long. Okay, but I know I'm getting really good information from this. It feels like an encyclopedia entry, but that's okay, because it's lengthy enough that it's going to give me good info. And also, because it's coming from a database, I can be pretty certain that it is a good quality source. So now what I'm going to do is a couple of things. One is I'm going to go over here to download, and I'm going to save it to Google Drive. So I'm going to go ahead and download it. It'll ask me who I am. I'm going to choose my correct account, and then boom. It is saved in Google Drive. In fact, if I go over to Google Drive and I go to Recent, there it is. Okay, so it's just starting to pop up over here. Now another thing, thank you. Another thing I can do is I can go over here and I can either email it to myself if I want to have a direct link to it, which is good. But what I really like about this setup is the citation tools, because you guys will be required to show where your information is coming from, and you're going to have to set up a small works cited page. So I got two options here. One is I could just straight up copy and paste this, but Google Docs is not friendly with the hanging indent that you see right here where it's kind of backwards indented. So instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go export to, and you'll notice you have a whole bunch of options here. I could go straight to Google Drive if I wanted to, but I'm going to take it over to EasyBib. And then my computer's really slow. This thing is like 10 years old. But anyway, you can see down here is my citation. But what's cool about using EasyBib is if I'm using other sources from the web, I can go ahead and I can enter the URLs right here and click Cite It, and it'll create my whole web page for me, which is awesome. And then, after I'm done entering all my citations, I can go to Export, and I can say Save to Google Docs. And it'll save it with the correct formatting, and it'll make a beautiful works cited page, and it's lovely and easy and headache-free. So just so you know, that is something that you guys can do. So one other thing that I wanted to show you real quick, and then we're just about done with this walkthrough, is when you guys are entering information into your gathering grid, make sure that you put the source title and where it's coming from. Okay, so the source type is, it's a database, and it's coming from Gale Group, and it's called Greek Architecture. Here's the URL, and what I did is basically from my source, I am going to go ahead and get the shareable link, and I'm going to say I want link sharing to be on, and then I'm going to do Control-C, and that way I'm able to grab my link from this downloaded version to put into my gathering grid right here. I've gone ahead and I've listed my pros and cons. My next step would be to take some really good notes. Okay? So you can see here that you've got source 1 for you, should come from a database. Source 2 can come from a database or from the web. And source 3, same deal, database or the web. Source 4 is optional, but you will get some extra points if you choose to do that. All right, and I hope that that is helpful to you guys and that you're able to find the information that you're after. Keep in mind that when you're using the databases, you may have to change around your search terms somewhat if you're not immediately finding what you're after. Also, be flexible with your question. If your question isn't getting you exactly what you want just yet, think about how can I reword this or rephrase this, or maybe widen it or narrow it a little bit in order to get what I'm after. All right, well, I hope that you guys have a good day, and I'll be at home recovering. I will see you later.